Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this Move, Sweat, and Suffer podcast with your host, Joe Hotai. And I'm here today with a gentleman who needs no introduction. He goes by the name of Max Edwards, and he is responsible for the incredible Busy Dad training program, which many of those within the community are following and use. And from time to time, I like to incorporate and use in my training as well. He's doing incredible things and continues to inspire and motivate many people from across a whole variety of the health and fitness industry in general. And it's great to have you back. You are our first returning guest to the MoveSweatSuffer podcast. Last time we had the incredible Lee Hazard here, and the three of us got together and got to banter and talk. But now, unfortunately, you're just stuck with me, but it's still great to have you here, Max. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you, Joe, and it's a real pleasure to be back. I had such a great time the last time we did this, and it's been too long since I've caught up with you, and so I've been really looking forward to coming back. With or without the legendary Hazard, we'll have to find a way of getting by without him.
Yeah, we will. He's, I know he's still watching from time to time and where he can, but he's a huge loss. He's a huge loss for this podcast, but thankfully not a loss within the community. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Anyway, let's come back to you. Maybe we just start with. I thought maybe we'd start with this. Like, we were supposed to connect last week, Wednesday, and today is my Thursday. But for you, it's your Wednesday, right?
Correct.
And so when we had this sort of planned last week, I was sitting on my Wednesday, which would have been your Tuesday. And I was thinking, where is he? Where is this guy? And I was like, this isn't like Max. Like, I know he wants to come on. We've been talking. We've got this plan. I was like, oh, anyway, it didn't happen. I only waited about 25 minutes. So we want to talk about you because the next day, which it was my Thursday, which I couldn't do, you were waiting, and just run us through that because you waited for a long time for me, which I apologize for messing that up.
No, not at all. Yeah, I reorganized several meetings. This is this meeting time is in a very kind of key window for me because my daughter's at daycare for a few hours.
Yeah,
this is when I'm pushing forward, getting my work done. So I moved quite a few things around. I left campus early. I got home, got set up, got ready. I had a notepad with all of my topics written down that I wanted to talk about. And 2 minutes past the hour, I was already getting twitchy. Quarter past, I thought, what's this man doing? And I sat there getting progressively more and more agitated, started storming around my apartment.
I could imagine.
Cursing away. My wife was saying, Max, are you sure? Are you sure that this is your problem here? Isn't it, you often talk about this guy, you say he's a military guy. Are you sure he just misses appointments? I said, well, he says he's a military guy, but look at this, he can't. And so I was getting angrier and angrier. And then I opened up YouTube and a video came up from Joe Hotai.
Yeah.
It was 8 counts and plank work with my son. I thought, there we go. That's what he's doing. He's meant to be in a podcast with me. Look at that, caught him red-handed. And so I opened the video, and there at the beginning, because it had been published 2 minutes ago, you were saying, well, it's Thursday, my time. Oh. And then I suddenly realized what had happened. The next video that came up was you saying that you had COVID. And so I felt so much guilt and also stupidity, especially because in the meantime, I'd sent Joe a pretty haughty-sounding email telling him that I'd moved all of my appointments around and being pretty pissed off. And so I felt a mixture of embarrassment and guilt for that day.
Well, I think both of us, because once I saw and then had a look at the comms, and it wasn't until later that day on the Thursday when I realized, I was like, actually, I think today is Max's Wednesday, so he'll be on there. He'll be thinking that he's supposed to be on there today. So the penny sort of dropped for me as well. But anyway, we got it sorted, and we're here now, and it's great to have you here. But man, you made me laugh, and I'm glad that you brought that up. So because we've got some other guests coming up later on as well that are going to be that are in different time zones as well. So I need to try to keep an eye on that. This is where you see Luke really came into his own. He was organizing, coordinating. He'd send me the times, and then I could get that scheduled pretty well. But that's the first obstacle.
Luke, you say?
I call him Luke.
Was that
Luke Hazard?
Right.
That's
Luke
another
Hazard,
story.
yeah.
We'll probably bring that up because that's a name I think Rob Simpson first called Lee. Called him Luke, and it even stumped me for a moment there. But so now that's a bit of a running joke. I'll call him Luke from time to time.
Okay. No.
Oh man, no, but great to have you. Great to connect. But anyway, now that we've got that out of the road and we're finally here again, I would love it,
Mhm.
Max, if you could maybe just give us a bit of an update on how everything's going with the Busy Dad program, with the progress,
Mhm.
and obviously huge congratulations with regards to your channel and the growth that it's been experiencing as well. So maybe just those
Oh,
couple of
thank you.
points, the program and the growth of your channel so far, deservedly so as well.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Yeah. So, I guess for those people who don't know, the Busy Dad program is something that I created about 2 years ago.
Mm,
Back then, it was for personal use only. I gave it the name just as a kind of little joke for myself. It wasn't really something that I was sharing, and it didn't have much of the kind of formal labeling and terminology around it. Um, but after about a year of doing it, I was just so astounded by the results that I wanted to start sharing it. Um, and so I created the channel, with very, very low expectation. I just thought if I can get the word out to 50 or 100 people, that's wonderful. Um, but in the time since we've last spoken, yeah, the channel has continued to grow really
yeah.
nicely, and more. I'm just hearing from more and more people around the world who are finding that the program is making a big difference in their lives. A really helpful resource that we've created in the time since we last spoke is the Busy Dad website,
Yes.
busydadtraining.com. And that's been getting more and more traffic. Right now, we're working on creating a forum on that site where members of the Busy Dad program can kind of check in with each other about their numbers and where they're at in the program.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just been steadily growing. The word is getting out there. And the reason that I love doing what I'm doing so much is that it's never more than a day or two before I get a message from someone. It might be a 50-year-old in India. It might be someone in their 30s who's just had their first kid in Brazil, saying that they've found that this way of training, they're finding it manageable with their time commitments, and that it's already making a difference for them.
That's awesome.
So it's been growing steadily. And where I live in California, I live in graduate student housing, several other graduate student families. And every dad, every dad in my entire kind of communal setup in the graduate student housing is on the Busy Dad program.
That's
I
awesome.
had this surreal moment the other day. I was hanging out. There were 5 different dads, all with our daughters and sons playing at the playground, and we were just chatting about what level of the program we're on. And so it's spreading slowly but surely, and it brings me enormous satisfaction.
That's awesome. And so it should. That's so good to hear and deservedly so as well. I just wanted to ask you, Max, as part of that, because I think there was a time there as well, maybe it's still going or maybe it's something in the background, the Busy Mum program as well. Is that what's happening too?
The Busy Mum program has been slower than the Busy Dad program
Yeah.
to spread. Uh,
It's a hard
uh,
sell
I
trying to
cre-
sell burpees to mums. Like my wife hates
it
them.
is it is a hard sell. We modified the movement slightly to make them more suitable. Especially for like mums who are maybe coming back to training after pregnancy and
Yeah.
stuff. It's
Yeah.
been a long time. So we added a knee push up rather than a full push up.
Nice.
Um, that's been slower, but the structure is all there.
Yeah.
And at some point in the future, I'd definitely like to start pushing that because I really think that it has all of the same virtues as the Busy Dad program. There, it's time efficient,
Yeah.
it's very effective, it's minimalist. But
Awesome.
so far, it's mainly the dads who are doing the burpees at the moment.
All right, cool. Now I can still hear you, Max, but your camera's dropped out. It's just showing camera disabled. Maybe it's opposite for you. Maybe it's showing that my camera's dropped out. But I can
Mm,
still hear you. I just can't see you at the moment. So if you're all right, we'll
okay.
continue.
Yeah, yeah. I can
Yeah,
I can
cool.
see you and hear you perfectly.
Okay, then cool. Okay, thanks for that update and stuff on that on the Busy Day program. Great to hear. BusyDayTraining.com is up and running, getting more and more traction and is going well. And yeah, I guess it would be pretty easy as that begins to build more traction. And obviously, there are some absolute machines in terms of the females out there. I was lucky enough to have Martina
Mm.
on last week and spoke with her,
Oh, wow.
and her episode
Yeah,
will
she's
drop this
incredible.
Friday. But yeah, there's
Wow.
some incredible women out there within this community and that as well, and some that are doing all of this stuff but choose not to, be as, I guess, visually available or accessible
Mhm.
as somebody like you is and myself and others within the community. So,
Absolutely.
what about? I've
And
really
just to
enjoyed.
just to jump in there quickly, Joe,
Yeah,
that's you know um, there's a there is a kind of gendered aspect to the name of the program, but really the Busy Dad program is meant to be for anyone else. It was because I was a busy dad when I created it that it's called that.
Yeah.
But there's a reason I start by saying, hello, busy dads and busy people everywhere, because anybody who can perform those two sacred movements of the program, as far as I'm concerned, is a practitioner of the program. And so, yeah, it's meant for everybody, not just that.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, that's great. And thank you for clarifying that too. So great work jumping in. You jump in at any time. So definitely. Thank you for that. I where was I? Oh, yes. Okay. So with regards to the training and the minimalization of it, and the I guess what comes across to me when you're speaking about it is the not only the benefit but the beauty that you find in that, this minimalization or minimalist training methodology, philosophy, whatever people want to call it. And maybe you could speak about that, because I know, as you mentioned there, you sort of alluded to it with the two sacred movements. Maybe you could just talk through that, because there may be other listeners that aren't aware of what you mean by that as well, Max, if that's all right.
Absolutely. I think that I was always going to gravitate towards a minimalist training approach coming from a powerlifting background. If you think about a sport like powerlifting as compared to, say, CrossFit, the aims are very different.
Yeah.
As a CrossFit athlete, you're trying to build competence across a wide variety of domains, whereas as a powerlifter, you're trying to build true expertise or mastery in a very small number of domains.
Yeah.
And there's a trade-off that you have to make. You have to decide whether or not, as you increase the number of domains that you're trying to work in, you're going to decrease the amount of competence that you can build within a given time.
Yeah.
And so there's a choice that you have to make as someone who's going to devote only a finite period of time to training. Am I looking to build, core competences across several domains, or just expertise in one or two? And yeah, as someone who had trained fairly seriously in a powerlifting capacity, I really, really appreciated that kind of narrowing of your horizons. I'm going to focus on the squat, the deadlift, and the bench, and try and cultivate excellence in those three movements. And everything I do will be headed towards those three very specific goals. I found that very, very satisfying. It's very easy to gauge your progress if you have that kind of approach, and I find that it's that sense of progression that keeps me coming back. And so when I came to building the Busy Dad program, it was always going to be a minimalist approach that I would take, I think, just as a kind of temperamental thing. I thought, I agreed with my wife that 80 minutes per week would be the kind of bare minimum that I could, that would be consistent with me staying in shape. Very, very little time to put into training. And I thought, if I'm going to make that time count, I'm going to have to specialize. I'm going to have to find one or two movements and try and build excellence in those two movements. And so that was the kind of starting point. And so then I went looking for movements. Of course, if you're going to specialize in that way, right, you have to make sure that the movements have a lot of bang for their buck. I mean, if I decided that I was going to specialize in the bicep curl and the calf raise, and that was all I was going to do for my training, I'd end up with a really kind of disfigured looking body, and I wouldn't really build much overall fitness. And so if you're going to specialize, but you also care about overall fitness, like, you're going to need compound movements that require the whole body to work as an integrated system, movements that have a carryover for every muscle group. And it was around that time that I saw the first Iron Wolf videos, and I just thought, yes, these burpee variations, there's not a muscle that they leave unscathed, untouched. And so there's a bit of experimentation, and I came to this conclusion that of all of his military style burpee variations, the 6 count and the Navy SEAL between them just gave me everything I could possibly need. And there's something very pleasing, a real simplicity about saying, okay, well, in that case, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL practitioner, and I'm going to be a 6 count practitioner. And every minute of those 80 minutes, every week in, week out, I'll be devoting to building excellence in those movements.
Nice. Awesome. Great explanation. So you made me smile there because my mind was cast back when you spoke about you and your wife sat down. It cast me back to when Lee, I think, jumped in there. I just like how you and I can't remember the words that he shared, but he spoke about and pointed to, so you and your wife sat down and had a meeting. Did she have, and I want to ask here, did she have to book in with you to have that meeting to discuss your training regime?
Thankfully, there weren't any time difference issues. No, I wish it was as civilized as I'm making it out to be. It was more like we were coming up against the frustration that I was itching to train.
Yeah.
But I had these commitments with the baby, and so we worked it out. But I will say, like, I really think the Busy Dad program can save your marriage. It's definitely done wonders for mine, because it is true that when you're working out this little, you can really put it into the margins of your life, and so it has incredible benefit, but people don't really know that you're doing it. Yeah. And so it doesn't, create this perception that you're training when you should be doing other things.
Yeah, that's awesome. And well, obviously the results speak for themselves. We can see that, and that's why, and rightly so, the success of the channel is growing, and more people within the community, and people that I'm confident are probably applying and adapting and utilizing it as well. But again, maybe are not as visually accessible as we are at this stage. So that's really great to hear, and really good explanation around the minimalization and perfecting those movements. And you're right, the compound movement itself hits everything that you need, and it's working. You can see the results, and people can see that. So thanks for elaborating and talking about that as well, Max. I wanted to ask you about the 80 minutes, because it's just 4 20-minute blocks for you every week, right? What does that look like? Is that just 4 consecutive days, or what does that look like in general, the usual sort of format? Is it a Monday, Tuesday, then a Wednesday off sort of thing? Can you just explain that for us?
Yeah, and it's important that the program gives you 80 minutes rather than dictating that you do 4 20-minute sessions. So for me,
okay,
in a perfect week, I'm going to be splitting up my volume into 4 20-minute sessions.
Gotcha.
But if things are super busy or just it's impossible, there are other ways of splitting it up, getting creative. And I've experimented a lot this year with different formats, but I would say that my go-to format in a good week is still Monday, Tuesday, 20-minute workouts each day.
Yep.
A 6 count on Monday, Navy SEAL on Tuesday, rest day on Wednesday, another session on Thursday, rest day on Friday, another session Saturday morning, rest day on Sunday.
Nice. That would be the ideal if you could get that in a perfect week. But
yeah, I think there's something really valuable to having as much rest as you can and spacing it as evenly as you can. If you're doing 4 sessions and you're only training once a day, you're going to have to do 2 sessions back to back. And so what I would tend to do would be the back-to-back days, Monday and Tuesday, would be kind of experiment sessions. And then on the Thursday and the Saturday, I would be going for kind of maxed out PR sessions. Yeah. And so what I would do is I would say I've got a strategy for Thursday's session. Say I'm going to try and incorporate a 2-minute sprint at the end of the workout. I'm going to try, I'm going to be in a position of real fatigue, but I'm going to try and smash out, say, 35 6 counts in 2 minutes right at the end. Okay, so then what I might do on my Monday session is try and replicate how I'm going to be feeling at minute 18 in that workout on Thursday, and find ways of training up, doing, say, 2-minute sprints and then 2-minute recovery periods, and working like that as a kind of experiment that I'll then use on the max out session.
Gotcha. And just on that, when you mention the 2-minute sprints and 2 minutes sort of recovery, is your rest time included within your 20-minute block? No.
I'm done. I have a budget for leaving my house, getting to my training spot, coming back in, having a cold shower and having a shave.
Nice.
And the whole thing takes about 26 minutes. With a spiel before the video, it's half an hour all in. So yeah. When the clock starts, that's it. You've got 20 minutes.
You're on it. That's awesome. I love how you've worked that all out. Can you just tell us how many steps and paces it takes you to get from your home to the work spot as well?
It's about a 90 second dash.
That's awesome. Hard case. Thank you for talking through that. And again, really, really insightful and helpful, I think, for many people that will come across and hopefully take the time to have a listen to get a better understanding. I know that you speak about it in your videos, which is great as well. And then you nicely put together these Q&A things as well, where you'll respond and where you'll answer questions. And I think that's perfect. So people obviously have a lot of access to be able to get those answers. But I really appreciate you sharing that here with me on this podcast today, my friend. Thank you. I want to ask you about now practice over motivation is the next thing that I want to have you dive into and speak about, because I know you have some thoughts on this and I think they're going to be valuable for those listening. So this practice over motivation, can you talk us through that, Max?
Yeah, I can. I think it's really interesting, Joe, that like within this community, a phrase that we've all gravitated towards when we describe what we do is we call ourselves burpee practitioners. Right? That phrase practitioner, it comes up again and again. And I love that word. And I think it conveys something very important, which is that we're building a training practice. And in my mind, what a training practice is it's something that you do on a routine basis. It looks pretty much the same every time you do it. And there are specific times or time slots when you do it. What's important is that you do it regardless of your prior mental state, regardless of how you're feeling before you do it. Okay. That's kind of, we talk about practice in the context of people who are religious, right? People who are practicing a religion, they're going to go to their church or to their place of worship on a routine basis, regardless of whether they feel like going in the morning. Okay, they just go and they know that there's a value to just turning up week in, week out. And in my training, my focus has really been on building a practice. I think that once you've got experience of training, even when you didn't feel like doing it that morning, and you've got weeks and months and years of experience of that, of training where you override any resistance. I know that you're big on kind of not getting into excuses and just showing up routinely. What happens is, and this is when you have a really deep training practice, there's a kind of automaticity that develops. It's pretty automatic for you to train. There's not really an open question whether you're going to do it. You're always going to get it done. And at a certain point, it stops taking effort to get to the session, to show up. Of course, in the session, it's going to be max effort. But getting to the starting line, it becomes automatic and it stops taking effort. So that for me, I know whatever else is going to happen in a week, the 80 minutes will take place. There's almost nothing that would stop me from doing that. Like I said, unless I'm bandaged up in a hospital bed, nothing is going to stand in the way of me putting in those 80 minutes, because I've built this practice over some years. And when you get to this point that you and I are both at, where there's that automaticity, where instead of relying on motivation or willpower, your practice is carrying you through your sessions week in, week out, something really, really amazing starts to happen, which is you get a cascade of incredible benefits from your training. I can't exaggerate how much burpee training has done for me. Like my energy levels on any given day, my feeling of self-respect, my fitness, my physique, all these incredible benefits. But it doesn't feel like you're paying for them because it doesn't take effort to keep showing up. And so it feels like you're cheating. It feels like unfair. Like, how is it that every day I'm experiencing these unbelievable benefits from training, but training is effortless? It's like you've won the lottery. An example would be, or an analogy would be, 5 years ago, I quit drinking alcohol. And I built a practice of not drinking. So a negative practice. I never drink. And I'm at a point now where it never occurs to me to drink. And there are these incredible benefits that have cascaded into my life as a result of doing that. All of my relationships are better. I'm so much more productive. All of that kind of vague feelings of angst and guilt are just gone. I show up to my training sessions. All of these incredible benefits. But it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything to get those benefits. It feels like they're free. And so the reason that I want people to treat the Busy Dad program as a training practice that they just build into their lives and imbue into their lives at a very deep level is Once the practice is robust enough and it's automatic to just show up, your life gets better and you don't feel like you're doing anything. It just gets better. And that's what I want for people. And to come back to the 80 minutes a week,
Yeah.
the reason that I'm really proud of the program, and the reason that now that I'm less busy, like I don't have a newborn anymore, I'm still only training 80 minutes a week. And the reason that I tell people this is what I want you to do, and I don't want them to do any more, is it's really easy to be consistent if all you have to do is 80 minutes. You're never so busy that you freak yourself out in the prospect of a 20-minute workout. And so it's really easy for people to build that base of, say, 6 months or 1 year of never missing a minute. And once you've done that, once you've built that base and the habit becomes, or the practice becomes deeply habitual and automatic, as I was saying, you get these incredible benefits that just start to flow into your life and it feels like you're doing nothing for it.
Nice. Great explanation. I love that. And yeah, that the commentary and the wording around, excuse me, practice makes habit sort of really rings true in my ears when you're doing those things and becoming intentional about it. And I know that you speak regularly about this, the intentionality behind the deliberate practice of doing those things. And in our case, within the community, the burpees. I did not get sidetracked, but I enjoyed listening to you speak, but it also popped up in my head when you spoke about where the things look the same, and I couldn't help but Rob Simpson popped off in my head again when he did his tribute video, and he mentioned he did a great impression. Actually, we should talk about that right now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
He obviously had you in there, a few others as well, but I want to focus on you. He spoke about you and where every burpee looks the same, and I thought his impressions and stuff were really spot on. But there was a part there that I missed. So you did a acknowledgement, but also the deconstructed Navy SEAL or a session for him. Is that right? What were your thoughts first on Rob's tribute and thanks video for him reaching his milestone on his channel? What were your thoughts on
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, first of all, massive shout out to Rob and congrats
Yeah.
to you for getting the traction of the channel. The man's an artist. I mean,
it? He is.
I was bowled over because I thought, aside from the fact that he did a pretty good job with the accent and did a really good job with our own kind of verbal tics,
Yep.
he even imitated our burpee form perfectly. Like, I mean, the job that he did on barefoot burpees is hilarious. But then he got the signature Joe Hotai knee slap between every rep. He got the way I'm kind
And the
of
spinning.
anxiously looking down at, and then I think my favorite part of all, you've got to go back and watch the video, is Lee or Luke has
Yeah.
a special way of running up and down on the spot between reps. He looks really agitated and
Angry.
Rob just got
He's
it.
angry.
Yeah. And it's somewhere between a run and a kind of jump. And Rob just got it. Rob got that. So the video really had me in hysterics. I was so impressed. But yeah, what he was saying was that all my videos end up looking the same. I just do a bunch of six counts or a bunch of Navy SEAls all the time. And so I came back and I said, hang on, the Busy Dad program has this other workout in it. And you know, there is, to speak to it seriously, on the one hand, I'm very consistent and all of my workouts are revolving around the same two movements. So in that sense, you know, there's a homogeneity there. Yeah. But as a practitioner, and I think other people will say the same, no two workouts feel the same. There are so many manipulable variables, even if you keep the exercise selection fixed. Yeah. In terms of, you know, am I going to do a 24 down? Am I going to do sets of 25? Am I going to go unbroken? Am I going to go at even pace? Am I going to sprint? That no two workouts feel the same. And then, of course, there are, you know, backup workouts that we do in the program, like the decomposition workouts that are very different. Yeah. But they're of limited value. I think that the bread and butter of the Busy Dad training program is just training Navy SEALs and burpees and strategizing for new ways of improving your rep count within that 20-minute window.
Yeah, awesome. And I believe last time when we caught up, the three of us with Lee, there might have been a question that popped up about pull-ups and training and stuff like that, or any
Mm-hmm.
imbalances and things like that. How have you been
Mm.
going? I know it's been well over 2 years now, and everything
Yeah.
looks like there's been no change. Have you changed in terms of, I think you were doing strict pull-ups every day, which obviously people don't see. Well, I don't know. Have
Mm.
you posted a video of those? Not that you need to. I was just curious.
I have, yeah.
Oh,
I've posted a video talking about my chosen form, the way I do them.
yeah,
Yeah, nothing has changed at all on that front.
cool.
Um, yeah, no injuries to speak of. I've never had an injury from burpee training,
Yeah,
and I don't think any aesthetic imbalances. In any case, I'm not really doing this for aesthetics, but
yeah,
weirdly, I think just genetically, my biceps always pop before other muscles do. So, yeah, just every single morning, 365 days of the year, I do 10 dead hang pull-ups,
gotcha. Yeah,
where I'm very specific that what that requires is that your body is completely slack at the bottom of the movement, and then you tighten up every single muscle group before you begin the rep. And you're so tight that it feels almost like you're levitating. It doesn't feel like you're lifting yourself.
yeah,
I do 10 of them. If you can't do that, I have protocols, traditional greasing the groove protocols for building up until you can do 10.
yeah.
But yeah, that's something I strongly recommend. It's not strictly part of the program, but it's a practice that I strongly recommend people do, and I've
Yeah,
not missed a day.
definitely. No, thank you for clarifying that and speaking to that as well and being so consistent with it. I think it's definitely something that um, should and needs to be done. And I
Mhm.
think, excuse me, a lot of people that potentially look at burpee practitioners like yourself and others within the community may fall into the trap of thinking that that's all they do or that's all they're able to do or whatever. Like I think for a
Mhm.
number of people, maybe not so because he's put out a lot of stuff since, but I think early on people thought that all Iron Wolf was doing or Art Iron Wolf was doing
Mhm.
was just burpees, but
Mhm.
the guy does everything. And it made sense to
Oh, he's
me.
a beast.
Yeah, from a military perspective, when he was doing that, I
Mhm.
I didn't think that that was all he was doing. I was like, well, I know
Sure.
in the defense force that's not
Yeah.
all you do. You have to be able to pull, you have to be able to drag stuff, carry stuff, lift stuff. So I know
Yeah.
he's doing
Yeah.
that stuff. It just seems to be a lot of his stuff is the body weight thing. Sorry, I cut you off. You were going to speak.
Mhm. Yeah, just on Iron Wolf, I remember I saw him doing one of these CrossFit challenges. I think you're doing, is it 5 pull-ups, 10 press-ups or push-ups, and
Yeah, yeah,
15
I've seen
squats.
that. Yeah, yeah,
And he just smoked that and with really consistent, brilliant pull-up form. I mean, there's no
yeah,
doubt that. And then some of his challenges as well. It's
yeah,
insane pull-up volume. So yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
For me though, I'm not Iron Wolf, and I, in another lifetime, I'd love to train like he does. But in this one, I don't aspire to be him.
Yeah,
And so, given that I have such a restrictive window for training, um, while it is true that I'm doing my pull-ups every day, I'm not doing big pull-up sessions of the
yep,
kind that he's doing. There is a massive bias towards burpees in my approach.
yep.
And 2 years in now, that hasn't caused me any problems.
Yeah, awesome. And that's great to hear. That's good to see. And each to their own. And obviously, as I mentioned, the results are speaking for themselves in terms of what you're doing and what you've been able to achieve, and will no doubt continue to achieve. So it's great that we can continue to connect and get updates as well as follow your channel and then listen to the things that you speak about as you go along. So that's awesome. I where was I? You spoke about injuries, not really. What was that injury from? For a time there, where the Squat City Challenge came about. So I think we should talk about that and
Yeah.
acknowledge Burpees Bandit as well for his
Mm.
instigation of the Squat City Challenge. Is where I think it came from anyway. But also, if you wouldn't mind just speaking first, was it your wrist forearm, and how did that happen?
Yeah, it was. So, the injury that I got, the technical term for it, is mother's thumb. So
Mother's
I got a
thumb.
case of mother's thumb. So when new mothers have babies and they're breastfeeding a lot, they often will carry the baby in a kind of with their hand at a kind of crooked angle for hours at a time, and that ends up putting a lot of pressure on their ligaments. And so mothers complain of a pain around their thumb, that it's painful to close a fist or to really open your fist up like that.
Right.
And I got mother's thumb. So that that was my injury.
I'm just wondering what Luke would say right now if he was here, if Lee was on.
Oh yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
carry on.
I know. Yeah. So my daughter started at daycare, and she's quite a whopper these days. She weighs about 30 pounds. But I really enjoyed carrying her on one arm in that same crook position.
Right.
Um, and it's about a mile to and a mile from the daycare, and just and I thought it was a great little arm workout, but it wasn't touching the muscles at all. It was just wearing away at my ligaments. And so I got to a point where I couldn't close a fist or open it, and thinking I was going to have cortisol shots or something. In the event, I just rested it for about 4 weeks, and it was good. But there was a time when I couldn't do burpees, and I was, imagine not being able to do burpees. It's unthinkable.
You'd have been distraught.
I was distraught. And it's a serious thing here. I mean, I was not myself. I was definitely.
Were you angrier?
I was angry at the world. Yeah, I was angry at everything. Furious.
Did you yell at your neighbors and just count louder just for the sake of counting?
Yeah, they wouldn't have wanted to give me any shit at that time. So so I put out this video saying, you know what, I'm just gonna do lots of squats and a bit of running or something.
Yeah.
And Burpees Bandit, created this challenge. That really saved me. That really galvanized me and gave me something to focus on. And between that and then I started playing with the one arm 6 counts and one arm 4 counts.
Yep.
I was able to get through, keep putting in the 80 minutes, getting by. And I'm glad that I rested it. There are two people who I've been in the past, and I don't like either of them. One person would have just used it as an excuse not to train.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that person is long in the past. I'm glad that that's not who I am. But another person would have said, let's just do it, and attempted to train through it. And I think what I would have done would have been to exacerbate the injury. And so I'm glad I found a middle ground where I was able to keep training, but without, and I felt very, very happy.
Nice.
A month later when I was able to get back to my 6 counts.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you mentioned it. There's a couple of things in there that you mentioned, which we'll speak about. One was it's great that the acknowledgement that, and you being so open and raw about how that made you feel, because I can imagine and I can relate to when you get to a point where you can't do a specific movement or exercise or whatever it is that you've been so accustomed and used to doing. That's a core part of your makeup and what you do. I know how angry and frustrating that can be. But one is that I loved how Burpees Bandit saw that, used it as an opportunity, created this challenge, and your words where you said, that really helped, that to a degree saved you, but really helped. And you mentioned galvanize you and the community, and that's something that I think is worth speaking about, which I'd love for you to speak about, because you're obviously a big part of this community, the Burpees community, and people have a lot of admiration and respect for you, as do I for you. And seeing you and hearing you speak about that, I think there's a real beauty to the community in the way that it strives to connect, not only connect with one another, but tries to either give advice or draw strength from one another, inspiration, some people will call it, and I know I use that term as well, and also as a way to try to give back, which is what the Busy Dad program, to me at least, does anyway. It's a way of trying to give back and help people better improve themselves individually from a physical and mental health perspective, and a whole bunch of other things, all those other benefits which you mentioned, which we might not see straight away, but all of a sudden you take some time and reflect and you go, wow, I've got that. Well, and I don't feel like I'm having to work hard for it. So I guess just speaking about the galvanizing of the community, your take on that, and I guess the beauty of it, if you view it that way, or if whatever your take is on the community itself and how you draw strength from it.
Yeah, I do. I absolutely think it's a beautiful thing. I love this community. I've never really been someone who's used social media, and I hear a lot of nightmares about the kinds of communities that can form, but I think this one is nothing but positive. A perfect case in point would be, what Burpees Bandit did for me there. And of course, I mean, and he's a really exceptional member of this community, but there are many, many others. Of course, that was building on something that had been done for Osiris, for Derek, with the 202 pump.
Yeah.
I love the way that we try and pick each other up when we're down in that way. But in terms of inspiration, it's real. I mean, it's real. There's not a member of this community who hasn't sort of spoken to me in like minute 15 of a hellish workout and got me through. Like not a single one who hasn't inspired me. I remember, I think I directed your attention to it. There was a week when I was worried I wouldn't get my 80 minutes in.
Yeah.
Because I'd been ill. And I had to do the 80 minutes all on a Sunday night. I wasn't better. I did the whole workout in a coat. I was shivering. I felt horrible. I did 800 six counts over that 80 minutes. And man, I wanted to stop. I really wanted to turn off the camera. I really wanted to stop. And at a certain point, I just thought, well, would Joe Mother Hotai stop? Would James Bruce in his basement stop?
In his tuxedo?
In his torture chamber stop? Yeah. There's no way. There's no way that these people would stop. And there's, I can give you every guarantee that before I made this channel, I would not have completed that workout. But the thought of all of you, the example that all of you set, it got me through. And it's so funny to me that all we started doing was putting a phone in front of ourselves and pressing record and then doing what we would have done anyway.
Yeah.
But this thing is formed where we learn from each other and we draw from each other's example.
Yeah.
And no, for me, that's the word inspiration is absolutely the one to use here. I'm constantly inspired by other people in this community. Awesome. And yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks for speaking to that, Max. Really, it's always good listening to you articulate things, and particularly when you're describing stuff, because you're quite animated too, which is what I like about you, especially with your hello, busy dads and busy people everywhere. Like, it's great though. But those things are what, and Lee has spoken about this, those sort of things are what draw people in when you, like I said, just plonking a phone in front and speaking to it. When you start to speak, people do start to sort of gravitate towards, unless you're somebody, you have that magnetism like Burpees Ikram, who can just whack his camera on, push the thing, move back, and then just boom, just the machine, the piston, down, up, down, up. And I'm sort of mesmerized by that anyway. But it's great to hear members within the community, whether their faces are covered or not, speaking to the camera and talking about what it is that they're doing or what it is that they're trying to do. And just, I want to come back to your program. I've seen recently, and I've got to go back and finish watching it, but obviously still in the game, Tony has been cracking out these ridiculous 20-minute sessions, and I think he hit 310 six-count burpees in 20 minutes again. I believe that was the second time.
Yep.
And then we had, to me, the standard, Mr. Rob Williams, 319 six-count burpees in 20 minutes. I said, I was 50 burpees in to seeing that, but 319 burpees, six-count burpees in 20 minutes.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I think it was yesterday or maybe day before. But I started watching it, man. So he had worked it out. He's got to do 10, if he can maintain 10 six counts every 39 seconds. I think it was from memory, listening to him speak, then, he'll be on track to do more than 300, because he said the last time, and I think his best one previous was 297. Yeah.
Oh, 297 was it?
Yeah, I think that's what I heard him say. But man, he smashed it. So I've got to go back and see that. But coming back to your program, that's a real, for me, as I look at that, I think, man, that's a real testament to you, Max, in terms of the 20-minute structure and the program that you've developed, like the Stephen Jobs of the burpee community in your basement, and then just boom, sharing this thing with people within the community to be able to use it and apply it. And they are. Rob, 61 years young,
unbelievable,
still in the game. I think he's 57. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he's around there. And incredible, works for anyone, any age, from what I can see.
Yeah, I mean that is, 310 is my PR. So Tony, right now, he's right neck and neck with me, and I'm sure he'll go ahead of me soon. Rob, I can only dream of that kind of number. And as you say, these guys are they're busy granddads.
Yeah.
And that's unbelievable. And that's so gratifying to me to know that this training approach is really one that's suitable for pretty much any age group. I just got my dad trying them. I had a little video of him. He came to visit me in San Diego. The guy's never done any exercise in his life. And I got him doing some. He's been calling me, "Hey, Max, I did 10 today." It catches
awesome.
On. And it doesn't matter what. I already knew that, there's room in this program for everyone. It doesn't matter what level you are. But what's really amazing is to know that you can go to the highest peaks of this program, even at the ages that those guys are. I mean, that, we're speaking about inspiring. I mean, those two, I've always had people say to me, Max, it's great that you're training really hard now, but obviously you're going to have to start, winding down as we get a bit older. And I've always thought, no way, I don't want to wind down as I get older. And those guys show that you really don't have to, and that if you do,
100%.
you're probably making excuses.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very inspiring.
100%. Awesome. Yeah. So, and there was a comment that I heard still in the game mentioning at the end of his 310, like there's no reason you can't be in the best shape of your life, regardless of whatever age you're at. So yeah, I really like that comment, or words to that effect anyway. I want to come back to your comments and the program and what you do. And I want to link that to goal setting. So to you, because I know that's something that's very important to you. Obviously, planning is a big part of what you do in that as well, with regards to, I'm assuming, not only your work, but obviously with your training, you have very set ideas of what it is that you want to achieve. And that's great. I think that's awesome. And people will gain a lot of value from that. And I think there's a lot of people out there, not only within the community, but even outside, that will gravitate even more so towards that style. So just on goal setting, Max, can you take us through what that process looks like for you, and maybe share with us what some of your goals are for this year, if that's all right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so the Busy Dad program has this structure within it that encourages goal setting and an intentional approach to training. There are these levels that you unlock, and it's up to you to work out how you're going to get there. And the fact that structure's there just reflects the way I naturally approach training. I'm always setting myself short-term, medium-term, long-term goals. I think the reason that I gravitate towards that is that there's every training session that you show up for and put effort into, there's the intrinsic satisfaction of doing that. That's like one level of satisfaction you can get. You get your endorphin rush, you get your sense of, good for me, I did that, I showed up, whatever. But there's at a higher level, there's an additional kind of satisfaction you can get if you can contextualize what you're doing and think, this session was one step closer to this place that I want to get to eventually. That's a whole added dimension of reward that you can get from your sessions, that if you're just showing up and not giving yourself any goals, you don't get that additional reward, that additional hit of dopamine, a sense that on top of the endorphin rush, you get the satisfaction of thinking I'm moving towards something. And this comes back to what I talked about in my first podcast here, about the importance of thinking of your training as a project and not as just a chore. It's not just something you show up to and do every day, like washing the dishes, but it's something that has a progressive structure in it. You're always moving towards something. And that for me has just, when you have a sense that you're moving away from that goal, it hits harder. Like that's really, last December, I remember I was not getting close to the goals I'd set for myself, and that hurts. But conversely, when you have the sense that you're progressing towards something, even if it's baby steps, it's profoundly satisfying. And that for me keeps me coming back, which ties back into building a practice. I want you to keep coming back. And I really think setting yourself goals is going to be one of the things that keeps you coming back, builds that sense of satisfaction.
Nice.
For me, for my own goals, right now, the goal is still to graduate the Busy Dad program. And that has proven elusive. I really thought that by now I would have done that, and I haven't. And so for me, that's still what I'm trying to do. Yeah. That means doing 150 10-count Navy SEALs in 20 minutes, which is still a long way away, and 325 6-counts in 20 minutes. And it also, those of you who are scholars of the website will know, it's required that you do those two workouts in the same training week.
Yeah.
The idea is like, I want to get to a fitness level where I can do both in 1 week. Yeah. And then I graduate, I get to wear the hat and graduate the Busy Dad program. That's still my goal. And I really want to do that this year. Awesome. But this year is moving quickly. There have been a lot of setbacks. And right now I'm not at all happy with where I am in my own training practice. Yeah. So I'm building kind of micro level short-term goals to help me, first of all, reclaim some of the numbers that I was at before my injury, and then hopefully start building on that. But at this outer edge of my physical capacity, progress, I will say, is pretty slow.
Yeah. No, well, thank you for sharing that and being so open with that too. And I think, there's so many, you alluded to this earlier, there's so many variables that impact not only our training, but our day-to-day life, and where and how you can fit in those 80 minutes. If we're looking at the Busy Dad program, might be able to get 20 minutes here, but might only get 5 minutes there or whatever. And then you've got to, bunch that all together, even when you're sick, and get out there and amongst it and get that work done. So, those things, when you're speaking about that, I love to hear that that's your objective, to graduate the program this year, your program that you've created. And I think, from my side, like, I know that you're big on wanting to consistently hit those numbers, and you're in that process of reclaiming some of those numbers that you were hitting previously and some that you're passing now and all that sort of thing, which is great. But what are your thoughts on, so say you hit them, you graduate them, you do those two things, 150 Navy SEALs and 325, 6 counts in 20 minutes, both those in 20 minutes in the same week. And then obviously you graduate the program, you've achieved it, but then next week you don't, you try it again, or the week, 2 weeks later, and you don't hit those. How do you, what goes on in your mind then? How would you approach that? What's your advice to that? Because I know that there will be some that might not hit those numbers, as consistently as what they might like, but they've achieved them. Do you take your Busy Dad hat off and you now, get out, you're not graduated until you come back again? What's your take on that?
That's a really interesting question. That's not something I thought about. I mean, I guess it's been hard for me to think about what happens on the other side of this program,
Yeah, true,
because
fair
it's been so all consuming. But I think you're absolutely right that there's a really nice point that a kind of philosophical point that Aristotle makes, which is, how do you become virtuous? He said, well, you start doing what a virtuous person does. You start cultivating generosity, prudence, you start restraint, and so on. You start doing a certain set of actions that gradually will lead you to virtue. Okay, so then what do you do when you're virtuous? Do you get like a special medal?
Yeah.
No, you keep doing those same things that made you virtuous. The practice of virtue doesn't stop when you become virtuous. And I think in the same way,
Nice.
What do you do when you graduate the Busy Dad program? Well, you certainly want to maintain the level of fitness required to stay graduated. I think that's a really good point. What I've always anticipated to myself is pretty much training as usual, but with the incorporation of one or two new variables. So I'm particularly thinking that for a long time I've been flirting with the idea of introducing a weighted vest into my training.
Yeah.
And I thought about creating a program called the Busy Dad Program 2.0. And the Busy Dad Program 2.0, which is what you start doing when you finish the Busy Dad program, is the Busy Dad program again, but with a 20-pound weighted vest.
Gotcha.
And you try and then your goal is to graduate Busy Dad 2.0. And if you do that, you get a 30-pound weighted vest, and it's Busy Dad 3.0.
There's your prize.
Yeah, exactly. You get a free vest when you graduate.
People will be scratching their head now, going, "Oh, if Lee was here, be saying, F that. I don't want to do that."
Yeah, no, I very much want to do that. I'm looking forward to when I'm Tony's age. I hope to be doing 150 Navy SEALs in a 30-pound weighted vest in 20 minutes. That's where I'm headed.
Awesome.
Long term.
That is great. Great to hear, and thank you for talking about those. Not only your goals, but also your process of and reasons behind the setting of them, which makes sense to me. And also, just I love that virtue. Was it Aristotle? Did you say? And how do you become virtuous? I like that analogy. And what do you do when you become virtuous? Well, you keep doing those same things. Excellent. I really resonate with that. Thank you for sharing that. And I just wanted to, there was a piece there that you spoke about while you were going through that, and I'm just trying to find it now. I jotted a little note down. So with regards to the goals and the inspiration that you draw from the community, I wanted to ask you, who at the moment then if anybody, who are you sort of? I know obviously Still in the Game is right up there, and Rob Williams, Triple B, Body by Burpees, and a whole bunch of other people. But who else have you got your eye on within the community, if anybody,
Mm-hmm.
that you're sort of really enjoying watching what they're doing from the burpees perspective and all that sort of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe drawing some inspiration yourself from?
Absolutely. One person I'd like to mention is Jay's Journey. I don't know if you've come across
Yeah,
Jay.
yep, I have.
Um, I mean, I'm biased because
I
he's been.
discovered him. I discovered Jay. Yeah.
I can believe it. I do often go over their early videos and I see a comment from Hotai. Uh, well, long before I think he started putting up his sessions, he was extremely supportive subscriber to my channel, and he really seemed to kind of get the Busy Dad program and really see the value in it. And so he started his own training practice in relation to that, and he's really impressed me because he's a pretty muscular, heavy set guy.
He
He's
is,
pretty
eh?
tall,
Yeah.
and he, in the space of a few months, he's pretty much he's touching level 4 of the Busy Dad program already. Super. I gave him some very gentle suggestions about form, which can be a tricky subject with people, and he's super receptive to that. And his form is really improved to the point that I think it's exemplary. And so I'm really impressed by his progress, his attitude,
Nice.
and also the one thing he showed me and reached out to me about when I was injured was being resourceful with those 80 minutes. And he started doing these 10-minute sessions beginning of the day, and I did that for a week, and that was amazing. And again, wouldn't have occurred to me without Jay. So he's someone I really enjoy interacting with. I think if people don't already follow Barefoot Burpees, they should go and check him out.
Yeah.
One thing I guess taken from him is just the importance of really focusing on form.
Yeah.
He does things in a very stylized manner, and I love what he does with the burpee. I'm not doing those same things, but him, along with a handful of others, are a constant reminder to me that as I push forward, trying to pack as much training volume into my time window as I can, I must always keep returning to form, always keep checking in with my form.
Yeah.
So he's someone who inspires me on that one. But in general, I just find that the community is just full of really serious burpee practitioners in their own right, who are also just incredibly supportive.
Good people. Yeah.
I've really enjoyed great people. I've really enjoyed interacting with Chris Shawama.
Yeah.
He's hilarious and always very encouraging.
Is, yeah.
Oh, 40 something fitness is someone who I've just started to get to know.
Yeah.
He's great. Super nice guy. Also really nice way of doing burpees. XSV is someone, Nick.
Excessive. Yeah, Nick.
Excessive.
Yeah.
Right.
Excessive.
And what those two guys have in common is you can see they come from a lifting background. They're
Explosive,
really explosive.
Eh?
Yeah. They look so angry when they do their burpees. They fly up.
They're like, get away from me, pushing the floor away.
Yeah. Fuck you, floor. I like them. I really like what they're doing. I learned something different from everyone. Of course, there were the more familiar figures, the Throttles and the Hazards of the world, and they're of course an ongoing source of friendship and support and inspiration. But these newer members of the community are really great too.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's really good to hear you share that and talk about those individuals in that as well. And there's a whole bunch of others, but they definitely it'd be great. So I'll make sure I put them: Jay's Journey, Barefoot Burpees, Chris Schweimer, Excessive. Make sure that I add them into the description here, because they're doing some great things, and they're being inspired by people like you when they're going through. I saw Excessive banging out, and he is stoked, and I've seen the advice that you've given him, and Osiris as well. Shout out to Osiris. Just tips on how he could approach his Navy SEALs, his 10 count Navy SEAls, to get that 100 in the 20 minutes, and he's cracked it, man. He's doing awesome. I think he hit 110, might be his PB. And he's they're very, very strong, and it's great to see the impact that something like your program is having. But also, I think as well, and maybe it'd be good to hear your thoughts on this. I know for me, I didn't think that by putting anything out or putting some training and stuff out would have an impact on anybody. I didn't think anybody would be interested, but I thought, oh, well, we'll try this because of some advice that I got from a mate of mine. He said, oh, you should do this, blah, blah, blah. And it's been really cool just to know and to see not only, it's nice to get positive feedback, which is always good, but just to hear and read some of the messages when you know that people have really taken something or gravitated towards something, and the thought that's gone into some of those replies or comments or messages or emails and messages is really powerful and a beautiful thing, and grateful for that. What's your take on that?
Yeah, there are a handful of subscribers I have who have really sort of touched my life, really spoken to me. There's Paul from Oregon. He sent me an email telling me that he'd had a really, really heavy smoking habit, and finally quit after many years of trying. And the Busy Dad program had been his hook that had finally got him into a consistent training practice after years of trying for that, and he was feeling the benefits radiating across his life. I can't believe that's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Eric McCarthy emailed me or left a note to tell me that as he was caring for his sick and dying father, the Busy Dad program, he didn't have much time. He needed to be there to show up for his dad day in, day out, but of course he needed to get a little bit of distance from that and keep his sanity and keep his, renewing himself so that he could keep showing up and doing what he needed to do as a son.
Yeah.
And the Busy Dad program helped him to do that. These are so far beyond what I could have anticipated when I made the channel. And no, it's truly wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad to hear you say that. Actually, you've just given me an idea. You mentioned Eric McCarthy. That guy is so supportive across the community, and the thought, he's one of those people that I was just mentioning without naming until you've just mentioned him, that put quite a lot of thought and detail into not only some of their comments, but the messages that they leave. And it's really, it hits different. It's just really, different. Really nice. Yeah.
Daniel, I'd like to mention Daniel Proberts as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've come across Daniel. He's I think he's based in Brazil. But same thing. There's a real sincerity in their comments, and you really have the sense that you've given them something of value to them, and that's the best feeling.
Yeah, awesome. No, I love that. You just given me an idea. I think I need to grab some of those and just do a session where I acknowledge those people that are not as, they're not putting their stuff on there and they don't need to, but just their support really means a lot to members within the community. And so we've been fortunate recipients of that, blessed to have them as part of the community in a sort of, I guess, in a more indirect or direct manner in terms of however you want to frame it. But man, I've really enjoyed our time together, Max. I just wanted to hand over to you and just see, is there anything else that in this particular session anyway, it just feels like I'm catching up with a good friend. We just haven't spoken virtually face-to-face for a while. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about or mention right now, or before I look to close this up?
I guess my closing remark would just be, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about trying out burpee training and you've not yet done it, do it. It's life-changing. It's wonderful. And there are many, many different ways of getting started, but an excellent way of starting is to test into the Busy Dad program. It's super easy to get started with it. And as soon as you're locked in, after week 1, when you've done your 2 testing sessions, you have a roadmap for the rest of your training, for the rest of your life. And every week that I do it, I learn something new. It gives me something back. So if you're on the fence about burpee training, my message would be, don't be intimidated. Get started. It doesn't matter how you get started. One way you could get started would be with my program. One way you could get started would be just trying to build up to 5 reps or 10 reps or up to 50 or 100. However you do it, if you're thinking about it and if your body will let you do it, I strongly, from the bottom of my heart, recommend that you do it.
Awesome. Great words. And I thank you for that, Max. I'm going to take some time to just acknowledge you and support also, or try to do my best to support what it is that you've just said as well. But I want to thank you first for being willing to come back onto the podcast. Really, really great to have you. Always good to have you and hear your insights. And I just want to thank you for the work that you put out within the community itself and your efforts to consistently turn up, to consistently provide content that is hopefully going to positively impact people's lives through the work and the example that you strive to set, which is incredible. So it's clear to see. And absolutely, if people are looking and thinking about getting started, the Busy Dad program 100% should look to jump on board. If you have any questions or doubts about your ability, take a look at people, not only Max, obviously, the founder and the creator of the Busy Dad program, but have a look at people like Still in the Game. Have a look at people like Triple B or Body by Burpees, Rob Williams. Have a look at, these incredible people within the community. There are a whole bunch of people within this community at different ages, different levels, all applying and evidence of the benefits of a Busy Dad training regime with the 80 minutes a week and focusing in on those 20 minutes we can get them. So thank you for the work that you're doing, Max. Appreciate you, my friend, and great to have you back on here and to reconnect. Wish you and your family, your beautiful family, all the very best, and glad that we were able to get our dates and times matched up this time so that we could connect. And I know that people, if they take the time to listen, will gain a lot of value out of listening to the words that you've shared. So thank you once again, brother. Great to have you on here, and we'll catch up with you again later on.
Thanks, Joe. It's been a pleasure.